Welcome to episode 15 of Coffee with the Johns.
What?
This is the last episode for 2020.
Mirror.
So we are making this a special episode by giving you our predictions of what we see in the real estate market, what's going to be coming down the real estate market in 2021, what you can expect, along with, like always, a ton of headlines that we have more corruption, politics, social media, censoring, businesses. Drugs, crime, sex, and videotapes.
What?
No?
No, I don't know.
It just felt like it would go with
well,
the
that's
whole
an article
conversation.
you just added.
Well,
like, I don't see
we got to
that.
keep it
If
interesting.
If you're going on a
Everybody
tangent here,
likes sex and videotapes.
Oh.
So if this is your first time watching, consider subscribing. Helps out a lot. All these shows take a lot of work on our end, so give us a thumbs up, share, help us get out there.
And that like button. Smash that like button.
Yes. Smash the like button. Morning, Molly. Glad to have you on. So please let us know where you're watching from, guys. I would love to see, like, where, if you're in Texas, outside. We had somebody from, what was it, Israel watching.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know.
Wow. It's like sometimes I just feel like I'm talking to myself.
I feel like sometimes you just make stuff up and don't even realize that you're doing it.
That could be the case. I just don't know.
Wishful
We
thinking.
will never know what the case is.
Nobody will ever know with you.
No. So, yes, this is the kind of work environment that we have. How's your week, man? Good?
Oh, it's just absolutely fantastic. Had beautiful weather all week until today. But other than that,
Beautiful weather.
Yeah, 40s in the mornings, mid to high 70s in the afternoon. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's good summertime weather, but I would like a little more fall weather
Where the
now.
hell you're going to go to get that for
How
summertime?
the wholesalers treating you, man? I've been dealing with some wholesalers.
I mean, they're not. It's the nature of a wholesaler nowadays. I mean, it's one of those that I'm glad we've had the business tuition we have to, like, move beyond that and, like, progress it, because I mean it's a different industry than it was. I mean, just from 2 years ago, just from 4 years ago when we 6 years ago when we started, like, it is such a different market, and I think it's really driven a lot of. We haven't had any kind of economic shocks to the real estate market, except for one that made the prices go even higher and less listings come on. And everything that's needed to distress, it was kind of been gobbled up by the market, renovated, and put on the market. So there's not a lot of big financial distress that's driving new situations and inventory to the investment market or house that need that kind of.
And it also seems like the distress of sellers has gone way down, right?
Yeah.
I mean, since inventory's gone down so much right now, I mean, just if you have a half decent home, you can get rid of it.
Yeah.
People have an immense amount of equity in their homes as well. So you're kind of, there's not much of that motivation that as wholesalers or investors we always look for.
And anybody that's
sellers.
moving to Texas from, say, a California or New York or a higher price area, when their values are up too. So when they sell their houses, they get a bunch of cash, and they move here, the prices are cheaper, to where they're like, look, I can't find something that I want, but I got a bunch of extra money from the house that I'm selling, so I can pay this price for this kind of crappy house, but I have the extra money that I can put into the house to renovate it myself. So
Right.
I think you're seeing a lot of the what we call like wholesales, like wholesaling to the retail market in a sense that, but now the consumer, the sellers are doing that. We're like, I can just put it on the market and see what I get and get the highest price ever. To where houses, as long as they can still qualify for some form of traditional financing, to where, like, as long as if it's just dated, it can qualify for financing.
Well, and we talked about, like, if you have a half decent agent, which is a big if, listing on the MLS is more than enough.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's just that we have also seen that to have a half decent agent is also been quite of a challenge for some people, because I mean, we've dealt with agents lately that's like, holy crap, you guys are idiots, overpricing a home that's like, this home would sell in 2 seconds if you priced it right. Like, it's just, well, it's the market that we're in.
I mean, did you see those pictures that I sent you yesterday of that foundation?
Yeah,
Dude, bad.
that house was fixed up, wasn't it?
It was a flip.
It was a flip.
Somebody was flipping the house. You can tell because I'm just the sales history, and somebody paid like $13,000 for a company to
texted that
to repair the foundation. But you crawl underneath there, and like the inspector crawled out from underneath. There's like, dude, this foundation's bad. It's in rough shape. I mean, he had 3 pages of just pictures of what he found underneath this house for the foundation that had just been repaired. Nice. And they actually had city inspections passed, and they had an engineer's letter. And I was like, how the pier is leaning at like a 30-degree, and you have like a 2x4 just wedged in here, like holding this thing up, like.
Yeah.
Oh my God, how is that passing? But it just shows that there are certain contractors that can get engineers letters and know how to work the system. And I was just shocked that it's like, you paid how much money to get that done? I mean, for that price, you should have been able to replace all the piers underneath his house, but they didn't. And now you still have foundation problems because they leveled the foundation in September.
And you were representing the buyers on this, right? Yeah. So they're not taking it now.
No, it's just like I told them, I asked them, like, how bad do you want this house? Because you're gonna have to put money into this house again. Like they showed me the invoices. They just re-leveled the thing in September, and it's already off again in 2 months of like how bad this foundation already is.
After looking at those pictures, I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, it was a shocking. I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
So,
well, if I had my Mac, I would be able to pull up those pictures, but PC doesn't communicate with iPhones, so I can't pull those up. But anyway, let's get into some politics first.
Some news.
Yeah, let's cover some politics. But before we do, I wanted to. Everybody so far is from Texas, except this guy. I don't know if you know him, Andrew Middlestad.
Isn't he like really tall and giraffe
AKA
looking?
Baby Giraffe.
Yeah.
I see. He's currently in Tulum, Mexico. So good for you, sir.
It's a very Hispanic sounding name.
Well, Mexico, yeah. And it's not Hispanic, but sure. Anyway, getting into some politics. Here we go. Texas sues Georgia, Michigan, PA, and Wyoming directly.
Wisconsin. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. That's what PA and WI stand for.
What did I say?
PA and Wyoming.
No, but I said Pennsylvania. No?
Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin.
Anyway, directly at the Supreme Court level over election rules. So, I mean, we were reading this, and it's just getting crazy with the elections. I mean, with this whole thing about the, fraud, voter fraud, and everything, and they believe very firmly in their case right now. So they say the state of Texas argues that these states violated the electors clause of the Constitution because they made changes to voting rules and procedures through the courts or through executive action, but not through the state's legislature. So apparently they weren't following the proper procedures, which to me, that's, it's one of the things that we've been talking a lot with my wife about is that, like, why is it that we just don't have one standard system for the whole country when it comes to presidential election? Like, I feel like that shouldn't be left up to the state. I feel like that should be, one system that can get everything done and get everything done correctly. Like, to me, the fact that every state has its own little quirks, I find it to already be flawed. So, but to continue with the article, in the lawsuit, Texas asserts that the states also allowed the pandemic as a justification for ignoring state laws regarding absentee and mail-in voting. It accuses the defendants of flooding their states with tens of millions of ballot applications and ballots in derogation. Derogation. I don't know if that's a real word, but they wrote it in there, of statutory controls as to how they are lawfully received, evaluated, and counted. So, I mean, we've talked about this before, how and I think you and I are both on the same page on this, where we hope this is not true, because there being this level of corruption and manipulation on the presidential level of election is scary for the country.
It undermines the what faith there is in the voter systems of that people have a voice, whichever direction it goes. What sucks is it's no matter which direction it goes.
No.
And it's just kind of, I take it back to 2016 when like the left was extremely mad that Trump won, and they said it's Russia investigations, there's meddling in social media, they influence people, and all of that stuff. So now this is the right side, and it's getting worse to where now it's like, what were the stats, like only like 10% or 20% of U.S. elected officials are acknowledging Biden as the president-elect. And then like most people that voted for,
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it was something like it's a huge majority. And a lot of people that voted for Trump don't believe that he lost the election. They believe it was stolen. So now you have this side that's just like, yeah, this is BS. And the other side's like, yes, this is legitimate. Just like it was in 2016, we're just getting further and further in a divide, which is concerning long term, that you have this polarization of it. So you're either left or you're right. You can't be in between.
Yeah.
So,
well, that is one of the things that I think, we've been very clear on that we completely disagree, is how they're forcing you, and mostly the media, to pick a side.
yeah.
And it's like, to me, as an educated human being, you should not be picking a side. You should just be an educated human being and make up your own mind. That could mean that you vote for a Republican, and then on another election you vote for a Democrat, because you are thinking, you are being a critical thinker by yourself, of your own, and you're able to make up your own decisions in your own mind, right?
Yeah.
Now where it's like, well, my whole family has voted Republican or Democrat, therefore I'm going to keep voting Republican or Democrat. It's like that. First of all, like that's not even, that's beyond stupid. But then like what I find crazy is that you're not helping anybody that way, and you're not helping yourself that way, because at any given time, either side could be completely off.
Yeah.
And we've seen that in the Democratic side, where like even after the election, how they started attacking each other, right?
Yeah.
Because you have the far left, like AOC, Bernie Sanders, Kamala, all of them,
The
and
squad.
then the squad, and then you have the more less far left,
moderate Democrats.
moderate Democrats, like your Biden, Obama, and all these other ones. And it's like, all right, I think Pelosi, because I think Pelosi was going after AOC and them. So you're seeing this divide between themselves of like, you gotta pick a crew, you gotta pick a tribe.
Well, I mean, and that's where I think they're kind of at with it, is they're saying, hey, we lost a lot of good seats and we should have won them because we were pushing all these values. And I think they were, and then now the far left says, well, we're the reason we pushed you over, because we had a lot of first-time voters that came out from the far left that voted Democrat for the first time to help get Biden elected. But now we helped you get there. We want this. And that's where I think you're going to see a lot of infighting, because you're already seeing it with some of the cabinet members that Biden's bringing into his cabinet, that they're like, oh, we don't like his values. He's not left enough. He's not progressive enough. And so now they're saying, well, we helped you get elected. We want these things. So there's a lot of infighting within those parties. So it'd be interesting to see how
it all shakes
how
out.
it plays out over the next 4 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's sad. To me, it's sad. I mean, it's sad to see that level of fighting and divisiveness and separation between us.
Yeah.
Even though, like, what's funny is I look at the day-to-day people, right? The people that we work with, the people that we engage with continuously. And we know a lot of them are Democrats and Republicans, and they've been vocal about it, but we all get along.
Hakuna Matata, baby. Just
Right?
we all just get along.
Even when we talk politics, that's what I find funny. Even when we talk politics, we can still agree on the same principles.
Yeah.
Like, we are all literally saying the same exact thing. The difference is that some feel that Trump or a Republican can get that accomplished. Others feel that a Democrat can get that same thing accomplished.
Yeah.
But to hate each other when we all want the same outcome, it's
Yeah. Well, I blame a lot of it on the media and from all facets, like your Fox News, your CNNs, down to like Facebook and YouTube, because like they want eyeballs,
Yeah.
and telling good news doesn't get eyeballs. It's like creating arguments, creating friction. Like that's what gets attention. That's what creates, and that's what the revenue is driven off of. So that's where I think a lot of this comes from. And now you have a lot of this censoring thing coming up of like information is being put out. You have videos being taken down because it doesn't believe with a certain platform's views, and it's getting crazy. And I think it's getting worse, not better. Because those social media and those platforms are becoming more and more popular and more ingrained in our everyday society.
Yeah. Well, and then
to
finish off, like Texas argues that the intention behind these unconstitutional acts doesn't matter because the effect is still the same. So Texas is pretty much saying like they don't believe that these states did this with malice or with a want to do corruption. They're not saying that like, oh, Georgia or Wisconsin or Pennsylvania didn't want, they weren't trying to be corrupt. They weren't trying to influence the system. Yeah. It's just that the way they went about it, it was only going to do either direction. It was going to be flawed.
Well, and that's what they raised the concerns of like, these systems were never meant to withstand that level of mail-in ballots.
Right.
'Cause, I mean, one of the stats I've heard from these things is like in, I think it was in the state of Georgia, they had 100, or Pennsylvania, one of the two. They had 200,000 mail-in ballots in 2016.
Yeah.
And they had a 6.5% rejection rate. So meaning they got them in, 6.5 of them, something was wrong with them, signatures didn't match, something like that didn't go wrong. So those were set aside and rejected. Well, in 2020, they had 1.3 million mail-in ballots, so almost 10 times the amount, and the rejection rate dropped to 0.2. So it's just like, yeah, because you overloaded a system to where there's like, we don't have time to validate every single one of these. We just open, go, because they have the election laws only give them a certain window to count ballots by their state's rules. So it's like, how are we supposed to get through all these things? Like, we just need to go. So that's where I think you have that it wasn't done out of malice. And like, I mean, it's good that they put it that way in the lawsuit, that it's saying, hey, you didn't intentionally do that, but by doing this, the inadvertent effect was
correct
this issue. And I mean, obviously or the state of Texas isn't alone, because 17 other states joined in support of this lawsuit behind Texas.
Yeah. So, I mean, so you have that going on, and it just doesn't seem like it's going away. I mean, like that. You have Texas, not by any means, they're not a small state. And then you have 17 other states that are behind Texas supporting this lawsuit. Obviously, the president is going to jump on as well.
Yeah.
So you're looking at all this. It just doesn't seem like it's going to go away. And these things do affect the predictions that we're going to have later on. So leading to the next article that we have here
is the 4 states talking back. And what happens, because obviously you put a lawsuit out, you're gonna create all kinds of media around this topic, and they are going to respond. And it's not just the 4 states responding either. So the 4 states targeted in the lawsuit warned in uncharacteristically sharp briefs that granting Texas unprecedented requests would do violence to the Constitution and disenfranchise millions of voters. Nearly simultaneously that this lawsuit was presented, Washington, D.C. Attorney General Carl Ricin filed a brief at the court on behalf of the District of Columbia and 22 states and territories defending the 4 states targeted by Texas. So you have Texas and there's 17 people coming out saying we disagree with these 4 states. Then you have those 4 states plus 22 other states coming together saying, oh no, we believe in this thing. So it's like you have this divide that's like, oh my goodness. So the flurry of major briefs related to the case, including Trump's own request to intervene, demonstrated the dramatic and lingering polarization of the U.S. just weeks after one of the most contentious elections in memory. So here's some of the responses. So Pennsylvania in their brief called Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, long shot bid to overturn other states' elections, legally indefensible, and an effort to principles of constitutional democracy. Texas seeks to invalidate elections in 4 states for yielding results with which it disagrees. Pennsylvania's scathing brief read. So then you have the Attorney General from Michigan, Dana Nessel, coming and told the court in her state's brief to reject Texas' case outright. To do otherwise would make the court the arbitrator for all future national elections. The base of Texas claims rests on an assertion that Michigan has violated its own election laws. Not true. Nessel added, the claim has been rejected in the federal court and state court in Michigan, and just yesterday the Michigan Supreme Court rejected a last-ditch effort to request an audit. So you have these people coming back and just saying, like, this is BS. We've already been down this route, and now they're unhappy with the election results, so now they're bringing a suit. But even though our states are saying everything was done right, legitimate, and correct, when the state is the one that awards their electoral votes, not any other party influencing the other ones. Yeah. So you get a lot of infighting that way, to where it does show the stark polarization of this, to where it's like, it's either you're left or you're right. And now you have the states dividing, to where I agree with you. It's like, we got to do something. We got to fix these damn election systems to where there's a better way to get this stuff done, to where this doesn't happen every single time. And you have, I mean, even within the states, you watch some of this stuff, it's like, no wonder it's such a chaotic mess. Like, even within the states, you have different voting systems, counting different stuff. You have this software, you have that software, you have this machine, you have that machine. You have this county has this one to report, this one has a different one to report. And like, okay, this person can qualify for mail-in ballotings, but they don't. Like, Texas, you couldn't claim the COVID-19 as a reason for requesting a mail-in ballot. But in Pennsylvania, they basically did away with that. It's like, if you want a mail-in ballot, you can have one. So,
well, and I think that's right. That the problem that Texas has with it is the fact that, like, that shouldn't be an option just because you, whatever, you know what I mean? You don't feel fine doing it or whatever. Like, there's a reason for mail-in ballots. If not, you need to show up and vote. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, in my opinion, I think Texas did it right, because, I mean, we saw it here, and we have people from all areas where people are extremely scared of COVID to people that don't give a damn about COVID, right? Yeah. All of them alike showed up to vote. Yep. And in the voting places, they had the 6 feet distancing, the mask, sanitizing. They would give you a glove that's how you touch the machines and did all that. I mean, the amount of precautions that we're taking, I think that were more than justified and perfectly done, that they didn't require for everybody that just because you felt like it, you send in a mail-in ballot and it causes more problems. Yeah. So, I mean, while this whole thing is terrible and I think it's sad and everything, it's one of those things that we still talk about, that if there was fraud or just the system was so flawed that it caused the wrong people to get elected, then that is an issue.
Well, I mean, right? It's just because the way it went about with the massive influx of ballots and changing the system so quickly, and government agencies aren't known for being efficient when it comes to change, and quick change at that. It created a lot of irregularities when you start really looking at these systems and these votes and the different ways all this stuff was handled. Yeah. And it's just like, yeah, you're gonna have a lot of people that are pissed off that look at that and be like, yeah, you just logically, that doesn't make sense of why that was. I mean, you just look at like 1.3 million, 0.2% rejection rate, 200,000, 6.5% rejection rate. It's like, that right there raises questions. Like, so why was there so much back in 2016 and not in 2020? But then you have one side's asking that question. The other side says, it's not a problem. Don't worry about it. There's no way we can validate that. It's debunked. And it's like, there's no clarity. And so there's no way to get good information out to the public of what happened, because there's going to be people that's like, whichever way the direction goes, you're going to have a lot of people that don't agree with it. If Trump's able to overturn this thing, you're going to have 75 million people or 80 million, however many voted for Biden, believe the election was stolen. But then on the other side, if Biden stays there, you're going to have a vast majority of the 75 million people that voted for Trump thinking this election was stolen.
Well, so either the difference being that, you know, from what we've seen, is that the people that would have believed that it was stolen from Biden are going to protest and riot, where the people that it was stolen from Trump haven't really
burn their own city down.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things, like, you know, thinking about it neutrally, and I mean, you guys feel free to comment down below and everything and let us know like where you disagree. But, you know, just looking at what is, I mean, when the Democrats are upset, we see riots and stores being vandalized and everything. But when Republicans are upset, I haven't seen it. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. It's just that,
Well, I think it comes down to the voter base. Is like the people that lean left and more Democratic are congregated in high density areas in big cities to where they can go somewhere and get rights. They have news cameras. They have that ability there where it's like it's a lot of rural voters to where a town I grew up in 1,500 people, like you're not going to get 150 people out there riding in the streets of Little Marion, Kansas. So I think that's where in those
so you
things
don't have Republicans in big cities, you're saying?
you don't have a large amount of them, like as because the bigger cities tend to go more blue.
Yeah.
So, and where do these riots take place? Like even during all the riots of this year, they were taking place in Minneapolis, they were taking place in Chicago, they were LA. You had
Yeah, but even if that's the case, I mean, in my opinion, I guess the Republicans could congregate and go to a city and bash Democratic businesses.
yeah.
I mean, anyway, this whole thing, why does it matter, right? If you're saying, what the hell does any of this matter for my business? It matters greatly because the way elections are won and lost, the way politicians are brought in, the way they push laws and everything affects states and affects business and affects everything. And as we can see in this next article, Texit, the state representative will file a bill to allow Texas to secede from the United States. So that's the kind of stuff that happens, right? That's the kind of stuff that we talk about, that when you have all these things going on, you can expect things of states saying, you know what, screw you. We see it with businesses. We see it with states. And on this article, we have State Representative Biederman.
Kyle Biederman
Told his supporters on Facebook the following: the federal government is out of control and does not represent the values of Texans. That is why I am committing to file legislation this session that will allow a referendum to give Texas a vote for a state of Texas to reassert its status as an independent nation. This legislation perfectly aligns with Article 1, blah, 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 and reads, all political power is inherent in the people, and all free governments are founded on their authority and instituted for their benefit. The faith of the people of Texas stands pledged to the preservation of a republican form of government, and subject to this limitation only, they have all the times the inalienable right to alter, reform, or abolish their government in such manner as they may think expedient. And then he finished it with hashtag Texit. So hashtag, he's up with the people.
But I mean, this is nothing new. I mean, like I was reading into this stuff and looking different things. Like this has been brought up over 100 times since Texas became a nation. I think like the 1860 after the Civil War, and it rings what happened in 2016 is that after President Trump, they're like, oh, we're going to do a Cal exit. California is going to secede from the Union. We want to become our own nation. So it's these nations that are big enough to have their own GDPs that are large that saying, you know what, screw it. We're going to try to secede from you.
Well, though I was doing a little research and they were saying that even though this guy wants to file for all this, it says, the union between Texas and other states was a complete as perpetual and as indissoluble as the union between the original states. There was no place for reconsideration or revocation except through revolution. So I think that part is important. Or through consent of the states, according to the decision handed down by the justices. So without consent of the U.S. or by means of revolution, Texas can't secede from the Union. So this guy is saying that Texas reserves the right, which is actually why I even moved to Texas, because I was like, I was seeing things like this developing like way before I came to Texas over 7 years ago. And I was like, well, if shit gets that bad, I want to be in the state that has the means, the access to the ports, the access to everything to say, hey, we're out. You know, we're going to be our own
Deuces.
thing.
See you
Right?
later.
We produce oil. We have whatever we need here. We can definitely work with other major economies. But they're saying here, like, no, that based on the way you came into the union and everything, you can't leave without a revolution.
Yeah, so I haven't looked into the specific laws because you have that article, but then you have one saying, like, written into this Texas state constitution, it says we have the right to secede because we came into this as an independent nation. So whichever's right, I don't know. Do I want to see it get that bad? No, because I don't think it's going to just be a, like, we're going to leave. See you later. Sever that tie. Because now it's just like, how do you handle finance? How do you handle trade? How do you handle commerce? And what do you do when you try to alienate yourself from that way? Because now the United States at that point would have the ability to tariff anything coming out of Texas to take care of its own.
Yeah.
So we would essentially have to become a smaller, the independent small nation at that point. So we wouldn't have the backing of the United States anymore.
I wonder if they're using some of those verbiage where it's like, yeah, this was the initial agreement between you and us, but the overall agreement of this to be a state supersedes this agreement.
Yeah.
And that states that once you become a state, you're a state for life kind of thing, right? Unless, like they said, unless the states or states agree or there's a revolution.
Oh, because you just, yeah. And you look at it because, I mean, the Civil War, like, Texas left the North and joined the South.
All right.
So I hope it never happens. I hope it never gets that way. Huh?
Texas hasn't moved.
Okay. Okay, Mr. PC, politically correct.
Yeah, you know me. I believe in details. I believe in being politically correct all the time. Moving on. Why does politics matter? Look at Elon Musk confirms his move to Texas after month-long fight with California. I mean, when I read this, I was just cracking up because
that's no surprise. I mean, it's been coming for a while,
and it keeps showing like the what happens when you just mess around too much, right? So this is from Elon Musk. He says Tesla and SpaceX obviously have mass operations in California. In fact, it's worth noting that Tesla is the last car company still manufacturing cars in California. SpaceX is the last aerospace company still doing significant manufacturing in California. There used to be over a dozen car plants in California, and California used to be the center of aerospace manufacturing. My companies are the last two. He says, for myself, yes, I have moved to Texas. We have the Starship development here in South Texas, where I am right now. We're hopefully going to do a launch later today. And then we've got a big gigafactory development just outside of Austin for Giga Texas. Giga Texas. And over the summer months, after listing a lot of his Los Angeles area homes, I don't know, apparently he has a lot of homes in Los Angeles.
He had like 10 homes.
Just in case one was closer from traffic. Jesus.
Well, I mean, when you're the second wealthiest man in the world behind Bezos, it's like, well, I can just buy whatever I want because I think it looks cool.
Yeah, that's nice. It'd be nice to be his real estate agent.
Oh, right? It's just like a little kid. I mean, and probably on the spectrum of like wealth, like he buys cars like a little kid buys little Hot Wheels. Like, that's a cool little Hot Wheel. I want it. And that's how much.
Yeah, when you have that kind of Hot Wheel money. And then he says, so during the summer months, he's been selling off all the homes, and he quietly moved his charitable foundation to Texas as well. So why is this important? Going back to it again is my point and what we've spoken about before when people say tax the rich. This is what happens. You're going to tax the rich, right? By all means, have at it. But they're going to find a way around it. And what ends up happening as you tax the rich, as you try to punish these big, bad, rich companies that are providing jobs and economic growth, they go somewhere else. They're still going to be okay.
Yeah.
The rich are still going to be rich. They're not rich because they're idiots.
Yeah.
Like they're rich because they know how to manage money. They know how to do all this. So
take
they're
advantage
still
of tax incentives. Like that's how
Well, it's not
Elon
even
Musk
take advantage,
became wealthy. Is like there was tax incentives there, and he used them, and that used those tax incentives
Right.
to sell credits to other companies to become wealthy himself and build Tesla.
But so going back to it is that wealthy people, big companies, they're going to find a way. They're always going to find a way because they're usually led by entrepreneurs, right? When you have these entrepreneurs like Elon Musk is, they're always innovating. They're always thinking 5, 10 moves ahead. You understand? And if you keep hurting them, they're going to say, you know what? I don't need this abuse. I'm going to go somewhere else. So when people, because they're headline readers, keep saying, yeah, go tax the rich. I'm like, you are the one that's going to get screwed. You are the one that's going to lose because you start taxing the rich in California. You start taxing the rich in New York. You start taxing the rich.
Basically,
they
the West
start
and Northeast.
leaving.
Yeah.
And they leave and they take their jobs with them. They take their companies with them.
And
They
not
take
only
their
just
future
leave,
growth,
man, but they also-
innovation.
these states are like passing like nail in the coffin legislation where if you leave, we're passing a wealth tax for 10 years because you made your money here in Texas. We're going to, or in California, we're going to follow you for the next 10 years and tax you 10 years into the future. It's like, oh my God. It's like, if there's any reason to be like, screw you.
Yeah.
Like, we're out.
And-
you're trying to handcuff me here and not take away my freedom, the ability to move.
And then what's amazing though is seeing, like, to me, I'm like, Abbott for president. Let's go. Because this guy, I mean, he's
very presidential. I can
his
see him
hustle,
like, the way he moves
plus,
and
like,
talks.
his hustle for thinking about what is the best for Texas and going after it and chasing these people down and, like, you know, pretty much poaching them from California, right? Going to Elon, going to all this. And it's like, what do you need to come to Texas? Oh, you need this? Here. Oh, you need that? Here.
Done.
Why? Because you're bringing in billions of dollars of tax
it's also
revenue.
like
You're bringing in
Texas
thousands
is
of
fiscally
jobs.
responsible to give tax credits to move these companies over here to offset them leaving California. Like HP last week, we were talking that moving, what was it, $8 billion a company here to Houston. Then you have the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ's talking about moving some of their trading operations from New York to, as I believe, Austin. It's like, yeah, because like these taxes, they're just like, screw it, we're out. And I only see this situation with the COVID and everything exacerbating that situation for the fact that it's like now these states need more revenue because the ones that already tax high are the ones that are shut down the most, draining their coffers even further.
Yeah.
So it's really, that's where, I mean, I think a lot of it's coming down to they're just hoping and praying that they can win these 2 runoff elections where they can control all 3 branches of government, so like these left-leaning states can get big bailouts.
But to me, yeah, and then it's like, to what end? So you want these big bailouts. You want, you know, all this money because you keep screwing up. You keep biting the hand that feeds you, right? These companies, the people, you keep punishing everybody that pays their taxes, everybody that produces jobs, everybody that has been growing your economy, you keep punishing. And then you lose revenue, and then you're saying, oh, government, we need a bailout now.
Yeah.
To what? Like, to me, if I was the government, I would be like, oh, you want a bailout? You need to reform your state.
Yeah.
Because you are not business friendly. You're not investment friendly. You're not friendly. Like, I mean, you're just
not friendly.
You're mean. You're a big bully.
You're a bully.
You're a bully. So it's like you can't be doing those things, right? So I would put stipulations in place that it's like, hey, you want this kind of bailout? You want help? You want to recover? You need to change your laws. And like we talked about, so I've never been, right? But from you and other people that I've spoken to that have been to California, all tell me the same thing. California is gorgeous. They're like, you go to California, you have everything. You have beautiful beaches, you have great mountains, you have great weather. You know, it's a gorgeous place to live. So why are you being such an asshole? Like, why are you punishing businesses? Why are you punishing all this? And then whoever greases your wheels as a politician, you give them favor. I mean, I was trying to look for it and I couldn't find it, but there was a video I saw on the Bet David podcast of this lady that spent like 80 grand renovating her restaurant just so she can open with the safety protocols that they put in place. 80 grand. The government, Newsom allows a film crew or something to set up like right next to her with tents, not abiding by any rules, any legislation, any regulation, anything, and just set up right outside her parking lot, pretty much bogging down all her business with none of the stuff that she just spent 80 grand on doing.
Yeah.
Like, they're killing the small businesses. They're killing the mom and pop shops.
Yeah.
Just as long as somebody comes and greases their hands. So it's like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, at what point? You know what I mean? Like, it blows my mind.
It really does. And I mean, you even have these states that say, like, when Trump was talking about like pulling financial or aid from some of these countries that were really struggling, that had the famine, the third world countries and stuff like that, like states are stepping up. Like California's one of them. It's like, well, if Trump pulls all the aid from these other nations, California's going to step in and do it themselves. Like, you can't even take care of your own, and then you're going to send money to Venezuela because the United States is pulling their aid.
And plus, like, California has a big GDP, right? That's something that you've always brought up. Like,
they're the largest.
They're one of
The largest contributor to the national GDP.
No, but I'm saying, like, they have a large GDP compared to a lot of countries.
Oh yeah,
as
they're
well.
like the sixth. I think it was like something like the sixth largest
GDP,
nation if
yeah.
it was its own nation.
Exactly. So it has a massive GDP. So you're saying, like, okay, that gives you power. You're losing that at record pace.
Yeah.
At record pace. I mean, now Elon Musk doing this and pulling out, like, yeah, it's going to take time, but HP doing it, they're setting the stage, showing people, like,
You can make that move.
you can do it. Now, here's the issue, and here's something that you and I spoke about before, is, yes, these companies can make the move, right? Tesla, HP, Elon Musk himself, they can all make the move. And they take their companies with them. The issue that I see, the people I feel bad for, are those that want to leave Texas but can't. And as far as a lot of people want to say,
want to leave Texas?
sorry, California.
Okay.
To me, it's like they want to come to Texas. I want to leave Texas, but they can't because they can't afford to.
Yeah.
They can't. They don't even have the savings to say, okay, I'm just gonna get rid of everything, move to Texas, get a place, find a job. You can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't have enough money.
They don't have $1,000 to even try to make that.
They don't have
move.
any of that. So it's like those people are the ones that's how you increase more poverty in the state. Because
that's where, I mean, that's, yeah, you already see it, the unprecedented explosion in homelessness in Texas, where like you used to have these beautiful boardwalks like in Venice Beach, and now it's mile long of tent cities.
Yeah.
To where I think you're going to have that. You're going to have government supported employees, very low income workers, and then ultra wealthy. Like, you're not going to have any form of middle class small business left in California. It's going to be supported by the government.
Ultra wealthy? The ultra wealthy that Newsom is giving perks to, because the ultra wealthy, I mean, Elon is literally number 2.
Yeah.
Right? Or he keeps fighting with the owner of Louis Vuitton, but like, he's up there. So you don't get pretty much any more ultra wealthy than him, except for Jeff Bezos. He left.
Yeah.
So it's like, and we saw that in New York as well, where the ultra wealthy are the first ones to leave.
Yeah.
Because they're like, hey, listen, I like my money and you're killing me with this.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, I don't, what ultra wealthy is going to stay? The corrupt ones? The ones that are.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only one that makes sense. It's like, because like, you got to have some people there supplying the money. So you have ultra wealthy that aren't paying taxes. They're getting around the taxes some way, and they're okay with however California's running it, because it doesn't affect them. They're on a different pedestal of life than everyone else. I mean, it's your high-end gated communities that the homeless can't get into and destroy. They have private drivers. They don't have to drive around themselves. They don't have to interact with people at stores. Like, everything's delivered. They have private jets. They have private helicopters. They can get around.
That's nice.
What?
That's nice.
Oh,
have
yeah.
everything delivered. Don't have to do anything. It's interesting. Like, in the chats, I'm seeing a nice little discussion going on between Molly, Lawrence, capital asset pricing, and it's just funny. Like, Lawrence, Molly, capital asset pricing, just a company in the middle of people. Anyway, I thought it was funny. You
find a lot of random things funny.
They're talking about all the people moving to Austin, how Austin is little California and all that. But I've been kind of thinking about this more and more. And I also kind of think that California, Austin, the Democrats that are coming here are more of your moderate to center Democrats.
Yeah.
I don't think we're getting a lot of those far left AOC, Democrats that are wanting I'm sorry, they've rebranded Democratic Socialism. Because it's different. It's different.
Yeah,
It's
it's different. There's a big
Democratic social.
difference.
Yeah, big difference. They have Democratic in front of that. So that you don't see that many. I think, or at least maybe it's just false hope. I don't know. But I hope that the Democrats that are coming from California, from all these other states, are more of your moderate, more of your Democrats that are like, yeah, I'm Democrat on social issues and stuff like that. But when it comes to money, I'm more of a conservative,
Yeah,
right?
it's like
I'm more of a
progressive on social issues, but fiscally conservative.
right. So then I think that's going to influence a little bit as far as, how the voting gets done and all this. And I think this election has probably brought a lot of that to their attention of saying, yeah, I think the far left is a little too far. Like, let's bring it back a little bit. You're going a little too off. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my hope that, we always talk a lot of crap on Austin.
Well, but even then, like, I follow some people online that, the Mayor Adler, some of the stuff that they pushed through a city council, and like they're
Texas
trying.
Hammer?
What?
Mayor Adler?
No.
Adler, the
No.
Texas Hammer.
The mayor of Austin's last name is Adler.
Oh, okay.
And they're trying to get grassroots movements to have him repeal or remove from office because of the stuff they do and how fast they're destroying Austin with the explosion in the homelessness and some of the laws that they're passing. And I'm even seeing it here. I just noticed it yesterday when I was driving downtown to check on one of our projects. There's a bridge that 6 months ago there was just maybe a remnants of a homeless person that slept there. Now I go down there's probably 20, 25, 30 tents underneath that overpass, and it's growing every time I go down there. And or it's like you're getting these encampments even coming here of like these populations growing up underneath these bridges, and it's just like, okay.
That's the stuff that Nuremberg pushes for. That he's one of those, because that's what upsets me with Nuremberg is that he's one of those politicians that actually San Antonio is a big gateway to like Senate seats, to like big political positions in DC. I don't know if you knew that, but I remember reading that they were saying like pretty much anybody that's been a mayor in San Antonio has later been opened up to big positions in government. So you can tell that that's where Nuremberg is leaning towards, right? Because he's following that playbook.
Yeah.
And it's that's what's sick to me, because you still got to do what's right for your constituents, and you are not. You're doing what Washington is trying to push on to everybody, but you're not doing what's right for San Antonio. Mm-hmm. You understand? You're starting to see that. So I really hope that San Antonio wakes up and
we have another round of elections coming in next year for the mayoral races here. So if you're unhappy with how this has been handled on a city level, get out there and vote, because he barely won this last election to where it goes forced into a runoff because nobody got more than 50%. And
nobody showed up to vote.
Oh yeah, it's like 30,000 people like show up to vote for those. It's insane when that's actually the everyone complains, oh, I want to vote. I hate what's going on in Washington. And it's like, well, I'm going to vote and try to change. It's like those policies and things are so far out of your control that you're hardly going to see them in your direct life. Where you are going to see those in your local elections, because they're the one that controls states. They're the one that elect people to or appoint people to certain positions that take care of streets and street maintenance and CPS, your utilities, your roads, your transportation, your business taxes, your business incentives. It's like those are the people that control or have control of what will affect you every single day. Yeah. So that's where it's as crazy that the elections are swung that way toward more people show up to turn and vote for things that don't matter, that really they matter, but they're not going to have direct effect on you in the short term. But they don't show up for things that's like that could literally affect you in the next year or two. So
what was Elon Musk saying that with corporate America? You put an article in there.
Oh, or he just put in there is just like Elon Musk on the problem with corporate America is like there's too many MBAs. Got masters or Masters of Business Associate. I think that's what it stands for. So I think there might be too many MBAs running companies, Musk said. This MBAization of America isn't great, Musk said, especially when it comes to product innovation. Big corporate CEOs often get caught up in the numbers and lose sight of their mission, which is to create quote unquote awesome products or services, according to Musk. Because you got to give Musk, he's created some pretty cool stuff over his day, like his own tequila, the flamethrowers, like the Tesla car, the SpaceX. He's pioneered a lot of cool things. He says there should be more focus on products or services itself, less time on board meetings, less time of financials. A company has no value in itself. It only has value to the degree that is an effective allocator of resources to create business services that are a greater value than the cost of the inputs. This thing they call profit Musk added, should just mean over time that the value of the output is worth more than the inputs. And I mean, I look at this, it's like, yeah, but you're a freaking billionaire that's getting subsidies that can run negative for just raise money and run at a loss forever. And it's like, your normal small business can't just run at a negative profit forever and create a business. Like over time, it creates something good. It's like, yeah, but a lot of small businesses can't run at a negative for very long before they run out of business. So they can't so it is, but I do agree with him to some extent that when you go through college, like they kind of create their business, like they come out of Harvard, Yale, your Ivy League schools, like this is how you do business. And it's focusing on the bottom line. It's to create profit for the shareholder and the board of directors. It's not to create such cool, awesome, innovative products and stuff like that. So I see where he's saying it. But it is also one of the things that, like, yeah, but you also need to realize what life is like for somebody that's not the second wealthiest person in the world either. As like, I think when he sold out for PayPal, he made like $400 million. Yeah. And it's just kind of, even at $400 million, you're at such a different level of life that it's just like, man, I can fund these startups and different stuff, and my connections raise money and run at a negative and just have growth, and eventually make money.
Well, I mean, my issue, like, I don't believe in MBAs anymore, as well as when I hear people go to school for entrepreneurship. It's just, to me, having been in business.
My question is, what do you have a class on, like, psychological, like, preparedness, where it's like, we're gonna take your food, we're gonna take your money now, you need to go out and work to actually be able to eat today?
No, they have a class called #Rise and Grind.
#Hustle.
#Hustle.
10x.
It's just, to me, when I hear that, it's kind of like MBAs and going to school for marketing. I think they're antiquated ways of learning now, because the business industry is evolving so quickly, right? And businesses are changing so quickly. Consumer, what's the word I'm looking for? Like consumer psychology, the way consumer spending is, and all that keeps changing so drastically because it's being influenced by technology, right? Mm-hmm. It's being influenced by the phones we use, by the services we have, by all, social media, by everything. And it moves so quickly that how can a college or university, whatever, teach you something that's changing literally every 6 months to 12 months? You know what I mean? Like, my thing is like, you want to get an MBA? Go work for a business. Learn what it is to be in a business. You want to learn marketing? Go work for a marketing company. Go put in the work, because in putting in the work, you're going to learn. You're going to learn the strategies. You're going to learn what's working. You're going to learn how to pivot. You're going to understand if anything, what I think you should be going to school. Let's say you want to learn marketing, go to school for human psychology, because that's what marketing is understanding the human mind. Mm-hmm. Because you got to get in front of them. You got to capture their attention. You got to be able to convert them, get them to close. So that's psychology, right? So go to school for that, but don't go to school for marketing. Don't go to school for entrepreneurship. I mean, that's insane. Like, that's just a waste of money.
Yeah, it is something that is. It's a double-edged sword, I think. It's like it kind of builds on itself and kind of destroys itself. To where, like, I do agree that, hey, having a business like a business degree does prove some benefit, but I don't think it proves benefit to the level that it's being done nowadays, to where everybody can get an MBA. There's online courses that have MBA that have no real backing behind them. You can get student loans for. It's turned into kind of a for-profit kind of business model, to where, yes, go work for a business, but a lot of businesses have like the glass ceiling. If you don't have a college degree, they'll never let you above it.
But
or they won't even let you into management until you have. They use it as a screening process.
But those businesses, they're the ones that are going to have to pivot quickly, because the good labor, the good work are going to be snatched up by these companies that are saying, we don't care if you have a diploma.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And those are the companies that are going to hire the best work, because you don't get the best workers necessarily because they have a diploma saying that they're a good student.
Yeah.
You understand? You get the best workers because you get somebody that can hustle, somebody that can put in the work and learns and implements and understands and can be an entrepreneur within your organization, somebody that can innovate within your organization, doesn't have to be guided like a student would have to be. You understand? So those companies, to me, I believe a lot in the free market, where I believe it's like, you keep doing that and you're slowly going to start dying, because you're going to lose that pool of great talent that's going to other companies, all because you require some bogus diploma that means absolutely nothing, only that somebody went to school and tested well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and I think it's like, your wife put it in here, is I agree, but companies using things like Indeed to just filter through resumes only care about the degree you have. And so they use it as a filtering tool. So it's like, because you can't discriminate against somebody if they have because I used to help with hiring for the company I work for out of college.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, if you have a good candidate, like you can circle on the page and be like, oh, I want to talk to this person. Like, nope, you cannot do that. I'm like, what do you mean you can't do that? I want to talk to that person. Yeah, but that's discriminatory. It's against the law to pick people over, like, try to say like, I like meeting that person, so I want to remember. You have to make such an impression. That's why. And then in today's world where everyone has a degree, it's like it's used as just a filtering tool to just get people out, to where I think that's where the case comes out, to where like everyone has one, so everyone gets one, but nobody has that hustle anymore, because they're all being programmed to, if you want a good job and a good career, you almost have to get an MBA. If you want to work for an established company, you have to have an MBA, because they just, you're working at McDonald's, you're not going to make it up to the corporate level.
Even if, let's say, and maybe Valeria, you can tell me, or Molly, but like, even if they're asking for a diploma, are they verifying that you have it, or they just want you to say yes? Because if I was somebody looking for a job, needing a job, and knowing that I would do whatever I need to do, I'd be like, what diploma you say you want? Yeah, I have that one. It's somewhere. Like, are they actually verifying? Like, no, we're going to check with the school. We're going to check that you actually went there. We're going to check your grades. You know, I don't know. I've never applied for a job. I don't know. That's all I'm asking. Like, is that a thing? Because as I look at the way I live my life, is that I'm never worried about, let's say, financial crisis, because I always know that I'm willing to do whatever needs to get done to take care of my family, whatever that means, right? I will do anything to take care of my family. So the way I look at it is, if I need a job and they're asking for a diploma, I'll tell them I have it. What are you going to, like, what does that mean? What is that diploma going to prove?
They can, well, that's just it. Like, what is it going to prove? It's like, they don't care what it's going to prove. It's just the fact that you have it.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if they're asking for proof, okay, then yeah, that sucks. But if they're just wanting you to fill it out, just to have a filtering process through the application process, right? But they don't actually check. They just they're more hoping that people are honest.
Well, that's what I say. Like, because when I went to college, I was in my last semester, and after I got my job and stuff like that, I don't know. They verified with the school. They never asked me to prove that I got the diploma. So I don't know if they verified it or not. But I think I remember hearing some articles and stuff of people like falsifying documents to get jobs, and then later being found out that, like, hey, you never attended this university. You never got this degree.
Valeria just put, no, but I'm sure lying on your resume isn't going to go over well. I get your point, but not everyone thinks that way. And Molly is saying that, yes, they do run background checks. So is LJ. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Like, that just sucks, because I think maybe as employees, maybe you got to just get creative and stop going after these major companies and start going after the smaller ones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That you can maybe get in front of somebody that's a decision maker, and even though that's not the proper procedure, who gives a damn? Get in front of them anyway. Find them on social media. Find them in person. I mean, like, it's not that hard to find what people.
Damn near be a stalker, but it shows initiative. That's like,
Exactly.
man, I'm not an easy person to get a hold of, but you managed to get through. So obviously, you have some gumption.
And like us, you know, like, yeah, we're hiring, but if I have somebody that's like beating down our doors, wanting to work with us, I'm not going to ask for qualification. Just the fact they're willing to work that hard to get a job, I want to see what they can do in the job once they have it. Like, I'm curious now. You understand? So it's like, you know, as an employee, and again, I'm talking my way of being. And not everybody is that way and everything, so I understand. But my way of being is I would do that. I wouldn't go for your major companies. I would go for more of your, you know, local, smaller, but they're still doing well, and just be like, look, what do you need? Coffee? I'll bring you coffee every single day. Just give me a shot. I won't disappoint. Give me a shot. You know what I mean? But that being said, I wanted to cover one more article on this whole crazy rules and bad policies. And this comes from the other side of the pond.
Your home state. Other side of the
New
pond.
New York.
The other side of the pond. You're crossing a lot of ponds to get from California to New York.
I'm saying from
how? Where?
Anyway. So
next subject.
Goldman Sachs is leaving New York and their ridiculous taxes for Florida. I said Texas because I did see somewhere where they have a portion of that is coming to Texas. So you have Goldman Sachs, another one. Financial giant is planning to make a brand new start of it in Florida by relocating its asset management division that generates $8 billion in annual revenue, according to Bloomberg. Yeah. That's why, like I said, like, it's the big players that are leaving. Taking the hub to Palm Beach County or Fort Lauderdale will be another major blow to the stature of New York as the nation's financial center. Because Goldman Sachs, I mean, that's a huge power player on Wall Street.
A massive investment bank.
And by all means, I would say even the biggest, because, I mean, Goldman Sachs, most of the freaking financial advisors and people that went to work for the White House after they tanked the economy in 2008, they were all the majority were from Goldman Sachs. I mean, they produce really high, powerful players. So Dallas,
total assets under management, $1.859 trillion.
Yeah.
Assets under management, total assets $992 billion, total equity $90.8 billion, number of employees 38,300.
So then they also say Dallas is also a consideration for continued expansion with its corporate presence there. So Goldman Sachs, with 41,000 employees, has moved employees to Dallas and Salt Lake City in recent years to reduce costs, and it set a goal earlier this year of cutting costs by $1.3 billion.
And and you ask, like, how are they doing that? It's like, they're not cutting their services. All they're doing is literally moving employees from one high cost area to another. They're probably doing some internal stuff, but it's also the real estate, office space. Hell of a lot cheaper in Dallas and Florida than it is in New York.
The reason they're able to do it too is that because of COVID, they've realized how much work can actually be done remotely because they have adjusted. So now you
10
have
years ago,
even
you couldn't Goldman Sachs 10, 20 years ago, Goldman Sachs
so now
investment
you have
bankers
even
couldn't do
their
that stuff.
big players. They're like, it's fine. Go move wherever you want. You still work for us.
Yeah.
You understand? Because your job can be done from wherever.
The technology has changed so much.
You can't work from home, right? Because you can't focus. Fine. You need an office space? We'll rent you an office space and, I don't know, wherever the hell you want to go live in Texas, maybe. It's still going to be 10 times cheaper than having an office space in New York.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, go. We'll pay for your office. We'll pay for your house because we're still coming out ahead. Yeah. By having you move and by having our employees move and by having our home base move.
I just go back to the Stripe thing where it's like they
$20,000.
So they're paying their employees $20,000 to move to another state, but they do take, what was it, 10% pay cut? I think was they had to take a 10% pay cut to move somewhere, but like from San Jose to Austin, it was a 40% cost of living adjustment towards like you're getting pretty much a 30% raise by moving from one place to the other. Yes, you make less on a dollar amount per basis, but that dollar goes a hell of a lot further here than it does in Silicon Valley.
No, it's a huge thing. And having such large companies starting, you start seeing other ones because it gets competitive, right? All these companies are very competitive with each other. So now you have Goldman Sachs making this move to bragging about how many billions they're saving, right? That's to the bottom line. Don't you think JP Morgan, Bank of America, all these other institutions are like, there's an idea.
Well,
you know what I mean?
To be competitive, because then you have, like, they're in the same industry, the same services and stuff, where it's like Goldman Sachs is making more revenue per dollar spent because their tax bases and their things are lower. That means they can hire the better employees to where like, shit, now we have to compete. So now we have to move. We have to find ways to cut.
And then you also have, the Dancing with the Star Emmy Award-winning Cuomo saying that he's going to raise taxes next year regardless of stimulus, regardless of anything. He's going to raise taxes for everybody, not just the rich. He's raising taxes. So it's like, what are we doing here? Right? Like, going back to it, like, to me, I mean, please, somebody in the chat explain this to me. What are we doing here? When is enough enough? When does somebody just say, all right, are we all just idiots here? Like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
You are losing billionaires and businesses like crazy, jobs like crazy, people that can't afford to move. They're moving. They're leaving the state. Yeah. They're hauling ass.
Bye-bye.
And you're saying, oh, you're going to do that? All right, well, here, pay more in taxes. I mean,
I don't know. Well, moving on past this.
No, I don't want to move on.
We got
upset.
A lot of stuff to cover today. Okay. About businesses is the bars ordered to close in Bexar County until further notice. And it's just one of those, like, do we not learn? Like, and when I say they close these businesses again, when it's like, but it is also, you haven't adapted. You've seen this stuff coming where they're allowing you to stay open if you've converted to a restaurant, and they've allowed you to convert to restaurants by lowering the sales amount of food and alcohol, to where it's like, if you sell 51% of your revenue comes from alcohol sales, you're a bar. But now it's like and then so 49 comes from food. They've lowered that amount down to where only 35% of your revenue needs to come from, I think it's in the 30s, 35% of the revenue come from food, and you're classified as a restaurant. So
and you have Wolf that wrote in a letter to TABC, I guess, like what, tobacco, alcohol, bullshit control officials. I don't know what the BC part. Tuesday, to notify them that he is choosing to opt Bexar County out of Governor Abbott's order that allows county judges to determine whether bars and similar establishments in their jurisdiction can reopen. Then on October 14th, bars were allowed. So pretty much what it was is that Greg Abbott said on October 14th that bars were allowed to reopen with certain stipulations if the county judge in the jurisdictions where the bar is located approved it. To qualify, however, counties had to have less than 15% of hospital capacity taken up by COVID-19 patients. In Bexar County, bars were allowed to reopen October 20th. Wolf says that the decision came after a positivity rate increased to 15.7% on Monday. So he says positivity rate, but they're saying that it's 15% of hospital capacity.
That's where he did agree. It's like, we can't wait for that hospitalization rate to get to that 15% because it's too late at that point. So we're going to go off of the positivity rate.
But that's my thing, right? So that is, while I get your point on, bars need to adapt, and I'm 100%, like, to me, it's what we talk about, the free market and you being responsible for your business. COVID is not new. It's been for months now, right?
Yeah.
You know these things. Why haven't you made these adjustments? One. But then two is that, well, if they keep moving the goal line on you, it makes it very hard.
I agree. 100%.
When they keep saying, okay, hospitalization rates need to be 15%. Then you have the judge that comes out and says, no, I don't agree. You're the bar owner, and you're like, well, then what the hell do? I can't invest money.
there are some
I'm
places,
close.
like,
I can't invest more money to restructure my bar.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I like going to tap rooms. That
To what?
It's called a tap room, and so
that
they
like
have
a
multiple taps.
strip club?
No,
Oh.
tap, multiple taps. So different types of beers and stuff like that. To where it's like,
Bougie.
but they don't have the ability to. They don't have a They don't have a restaurant. They don't have a kitchen. They can't convert into a kitchen for this specific thing. To where like they're stuck with mail out orders. To where like they might lose some business to bars that can. So, I mean, it does suck. But one thing you put in this article that Bexar County has tested 678,000 people since testing began. It's like, how many of those are repeats, though?
Oh, my wife gets tested, I think, like 2 or 3 times a week for her job. So, like, that's
what I'm
one
saying, like-
person, and anybody in her line of business, which is the healthcare industry, you know, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. They're being tested multiple times a day.
Because I say
So, a week, I mean.
678,000. Like, we only got like 1.1 million people here. Like, so that means well over half have been tested. And I was like, I don't know. I've known a lot of people and they haven't ever been tested, or the ones that have been tested, they've been tested multiple times.
Yeah.
Where like you get test positive, then you have to go back 4, 5, 6 times until like, oh, now I'm finally negative. Like, so does that count as 6 times?
Valeria, if you're listening, put it in the chat. There's something about like the way they were accounting for the positivity rate, where they were saying like, oh, today's positivity rate hit 670. But that was taking also into consideration a backlog of positive results that were positive like weeks ago, and they never counted them then, so they're counting them now. And they're saying it's this, but it's like, how are you counting something that was weeks ago for today? Like, shouldn't today be today and weeks ago be weeks ago? Like, you can adjust those numbers prior, be like, okay, these are the adjusted numbers for a week ago, now that we got the new results or whatever. But like, how can you say those things when you're just piling in data from all over the place? Because it's all.
Who knows? But let's move on to the next topic. And good news
you're
is
moving so quick.
Bro, you got like 8 more to get to on here.
So I get, I 9/11.
I got stuff to, exactly. You got to watch that time. So the FDA panel recommends approval of the Pfizer COVID vaccine. So that's fantastic news to show like that's kind of light at the end of the tunnel. And I said, and it's getting, the light's getting bigger because it's already being approved in the UK for distribution. The full FDA could grant emergency use authorization of Pfizer vaccine as early as Friday today. The FDA does not have to follow the advisory committee's recommendations, but the agency often does. So that is fantastic news that the vaccine is coming out there, but there are some portions that you have to read that like it's not going to be available to everybody right off the bat, to where it said it's unclear whether the FDA will authorize Pfizer and BioNTech's vaccines for the use in certain groups. Some people, including pregnant women and young children, will likely have to wait to get the vaccine in the U.S. until Pfizer can finish trials on those specific groups. The FDA said Tuesday that there is currently insufficient data to make conclusions about the safety of the vaccine in children under the age of 16, pregnant women, and people with compromised immune systems. And regulators in Canada, the UK, and Bahrain have all cleared the vaccine for use by most adults. My thing was like, so compromised immune systems, isn't that who really needs to be pretty careful? Is people with compromised immune systems, but now you're telling me the people with compromised immune systems, the most at-risk group, can't get the vaccine? It's like, that sucks. So, but now it's like, we got to get it to everybody else and hope that enough herd immunity to where it isolates to where those people, if they do get it, can become treated.
Yeah. And then they're very worried about, people not taking the vaccine. So now this, who was it? It was this politician out of, here, give me a second. Computer. Too many screens. Okay, so John Delaney, a former Democratic congressman for Maryland, who also ran for president in 2020. Everybody ran for president. He came up with an idea of saying, hey, how about, would you be willing to get COVID vaccine in exchange for a $1,500 stimulus check? So they're pretty much trying to hold the stimulus check hostage in a way, or his idea is that if you want that stimulus check, then you need to get the vaccine, and you're going to get $1,500 for doing so. His point is that faster we get to 75% of this country vaccinated, the faster we can end COVID, and the sooner everything returns to normal. If you're still afraid of the vaccine and don't want to take it, That's your right, Delaney said. You won't participate in this program. But guess what? He added, you're going to benefit anyhow because we'll get the country to herd immunity faster, which benefits you. So I think everyone wins. So his thing is, because that's what the biggest debate, even though I don't think we have the article on that because it just doesn't really matter. But the stimulus is still like, they're still fighting over it. Before they want to do 1.3 trillion, 1.2 trillion. Now the Democrats came down to like 900 billion and the Republicans don't want to do it. And they don't want to do it. Now Trump is pushing for $600 a week. I mean, they're all over the place, flip-flopping left and right from everything. And so there is a lot of talk that Americans are not going to get another stimulus check. So his thing is like, well, let's give people a stimulus check and get the vaccine out by combining the two.
Yeah.
Right. So that being said, I would love to hear from you guys in the chat. Type in, or give me hit the thumbs up button if you will get the vaccine, and hit the thumbs down button if you will not get the vaccine.
Bro, you're going to get so many negatives. I got to switch mine now.
What?
I got to switch my thumbs up to the thumbs down.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see what people are saying, and yourself as well. Like, personally, obviously, because I can't talk for other people. I'm not giving them the vaccine. But I will not get the vaccine, but not because it's the COVID vaccine or something like that. It's just because I don't like medicine. Like, I mean, I'm a kind of person that I'm in pain, and I still won't take a pain reliever because I'm not a fan of medicine, right? Like, I believe, like, let the body figure it out kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I don't take the flu vaccine either. I just don't like it. So I don't need to either, right? Because the business that we move in, we don't come in contact with that many people. We don't travel on airplanes. We don't work for the healthcare industry. We're not teachers for little kids in school or anything like that you can say, hey, you're risking a lot of people's lives.
Yeah.
We're not in that space. So because I believe our exposure to people is very limited, I don't feel that I need to subject myself to a vaccine that, in my opinion, my personal fear or concern is that it really hasn't been tested. We don't know what the symptoms are going to be. I was reading an article where they were saying, like, they don't even recommend it for kids 16 and 17 years old, and definitely not younger, because of bad side effects that they've been getting.
They don't have enough test data from that.
Okay.
That's what the article I was reading is like. They don't recommend it because they don't have enough evidence from those specific groups.
But that's just as bad, because it's like, so you don't have enough evidence, right? So we don't know. We don't know to just go ahead and say, but we do have enough evidence showing how potentially bad COVID could be for a 17-year-old that has maybe a decent immune system, been taking their vitamin Ds and all that to make sure their immune system is good. We have evidence on that. So to me, it's like when you look at both and it's like, all right, well, we have evidence that's like, you're damn near guaranteed you're going to survive if you get COVID, versus the COVID vaccine where it's like, yeah, we don't know what's going to happen. To me, I'm just like, that's a no-brainer. Like,
I mean, people can make their own choices of the science. Like, I'm with you. It's like, to me, it's like, I believe the more you expose your kids to dirt, germs, and everything like that, it builds a stronger immune system as they grow up. It's like if you put somebody in a bubble from a little kid, they never let them get dirty, they never play with dirt, they never expose those germs, they're more susceptible to diseases, infections later in life.
right.
So like, I'm of the mindset, it's like, I would rather let my system be exposed to those things because it builds its own immunities to these types of viruses into the future. And I think over long term, I'm going to play out better over the long term, being able to have an immune system that can combat these kind of infections and stuff like that. So,
well, I mean, what's interesting is that, so we get a lot of thumbs down, and Valeria says definitely not for money. What about $3,000? That's up the ante. But we have Capital Asset Pricing saying 2 years ago, I experimented by not taking the flu shot. I got sick twice with the flu that season. Jesus. Twice in one season, man.
That's pretty bad. It's like I haven't taken a flu shot in, oh my God, years. I mean, I didn't even take it through college. I mean, it's probably been a decade or more since I've taken one. And like, I got the flu one time when I was 21, and yeah, I felt like shit for 2-3 days. But lo and behold, came out the other side and didn't grow a third arm or didn't die from it, didn't get pneumonia. It's like, and I'm sure some people do. I'm not turning that down at all.
And nobody's saying that.
But it's just like, yeah, I prefer to expose myself, and I don't want you to force your personal health issues onto me being the way it has to be, especially for something that has the survival rates. Now, if you're talking this disease has 50% chance of dying if you get it, like, okay, a little bit different.
Or even 50% chance of being severely ill in the hospital. Right?
Severely ill and have long-term repercussions from
But even
these
then,
things.
it's like those percentages are still low.
Yeah, for this.
So
exactly.
then it's like, and so I mean, that's why I believe you need to be educated, not follow the headlines, because you need to make this decision on your own. But so yeah, that's with the vaccine. So hopefully, I don't know what's gonna happen, because that's gonna influence again what's gonna happen next year. If the vaccines are coming out, people are not rushing to take it. We're not hitting herd immunity. The media is not playing it to the advantage of the country. Then, we could see more lockdowns, more of this stalling, more of all these issues. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. But another article that we wanted to talk about, shifting gears a little bit here, is you have the FTC in the States sue Facebook and could cause it to divest Instagram and WhatsApp, Doc.
We can go on for a long time about this. We had quite a long discussion about this just yesterday that I wish it could have been on this time, but we don't have the time to get into an hour-long discussion over this article. But
yeah, so in this article, you have the Federal Trade Commission and the coalition of attorney generals from 48 states and territories filed 2 separate antitrust lawsuits against Facebook on Wednesday. The suits target 2 of Facebook's major acquisitions, Instagram and WhatsApp. Both lawsuits are keeping remedies for alleged anti-competitive conduct that could result in requiring Facebook to divest the 2 apps. The most important fact in this case, which the commission does not mention in its 53-page complaint, is that it cleared these acquisitions years ago, says Facebook's chief counsel, Jennifer Newstead. And then she says the government now wants a do-over, sending chilling warnings to American business that no sale is ever final. The FTC alleges that Facebook engaged in a systematic strategy to eliminate threats to its monopoly, including the 2012-2014 acquisitions of Instagram for $1 billion and WhatsApp for $19 billion. As part of the lawsuit, the FTC will seek a permanent injunction that could result in the divestitures? Jesus, the words they use. The splitting up of Instagram and WhatsApp. The agency said, additionally, the FTC will seek to prohibit Facebook from imposing anti-competitive conditions against third-party software developments. Since toppling early rival MySpace and achieving monopoly power, Facebook has turned to playing defense through anti-competitive means, the FTC states. After identifying 2 significant competitive threats to its dominant positions, Instagram and WhatsApp, Facebook moved to squelch those threats by buying the companies, reflecting CEO Mark Zuckerberg's views expressed in the 2018 email, "It's better to buy than compete." When Facebook bought Insta in 2012, everyone said they were nuts spending that much on a photo sharing app. And I remember that everybody was saying how insane it was that they were paying $1 billion for a simple photo sharing app. They're like, it doesn't compete with Facebook. It has no legs to stand on. Like, it's nothing. Yeah. Like, in Facebook, all they saw is like, no, they have some great technology that we would like to incorporate into Facebook. I love a quote by Mark Twain that says, politicians are like diapers. They need to be changed often and for the same reasons. Because to me, this is, obviously, like we talked about, they haven't shown, at least to our knowledge, any real evidence of what type of meddling or monopolizing they've been doing. They haven't shown any facts on any of that. They're just saying, they keep saying Instagram and WhatsApp. To me, it just kind of, to his attorney's point, this is setting a precedence that if you as a business get too big, the government will break you up.
But that's what I was saying. Like, they use that argument. It's like, but AT&T in the 80s was they were approved to acquire all over. They didn't get that big by not acquiring a bunch of companies through approval, and they got broken up.
Yeah, but like we talked about, AT&T was different because they controlled all of the phones and setting rates and stuff like that. Facebook doesn't do that. They don't control all of social media. You still have LinkedIn, you still have Twitter, you now have TikTok, you now have Parler. Like, they're obviously not doing that.
But that's sort of the point. Is like, we don't know. They said, because I didn't read this 53-page or that was from them, whatever the page document was, the lawsuit they brought against it. But if you have 48 attorney generals across the United States all joining behind this lawsuit, like, obviously there is something that they want to have investigated.
Well,
yeah.
yeah.
Like, I look at it to where it's like, you get too big, the government's going to start messing with your business. That's your fault as an entrepreneur and getting that big, that you allowed yourself in a position where it's showing the government will do it.
That's your fault as an entrepreneur for getting that big?
But by pushing those kind of buttons that is going to get yourself investigated. Like, that's going to come.
Look, I'm all for, like I said, like, I'm all for investigations just to keep Facebook and large companies like this on their toes, right? To make sure that it's like you're not doing anything illegal. But them simply saying that we want to break you up just because you're too big.
But we don't know if that's what they're saying. As like, we don't know. We haven't read the lawsuit or what's gone against it. They're saying,
but what the FTC keeps stating is Instagram and WhatsApp, and they keep stating it over and over and over: Instagram and WhatsApp, Instagram and WhatsApp. And it's like, Instagram and WhatsApp do not compete with Facebook. Like, they're not the same. They're not a social. They're not the same kind of platforms. You know what I mean? What would compete with Facebook? I would say LinkedIn is more of a competitor, more of a apples to apples. Even TikTok doesn't compete with Facebook. They compete with Instagram, right? Which is a part of Facebook, but it's not apples to apples in my opinion. It's like, there's still competition. And Parler now is coming up, and they're hauling ass. They're doing well, even though it's mostly in the conservative space of business owner of not business owners, of users. Is more conservative. Republicans are more in there. I don't know. To me, it's like we were talking about yesterday. What I worry about, I don't like big government. I don't like government stepping into business. And I don't like these career-long politicians that know nothing about any of these things, putting their 2 cents into what should be broken up in a business, in a technology that they can't even understand. To me, that's
the point
scary.
about bringing the lawsuit, because they bring specialists in there. Like, they don't know, they don't understand it. They feel there's a threat, so they do the probes, and then they bring people that do understand it into. It's like, because they're going to hire a legal law firm that understands technology. They're not going to have just somebody go in there, because obviously Facebook's got their back pocket of attorneys that are going to go that understand their position. So now you have to bring somebody onto the other side that can defend the lawsuit. So obviously those talks have already happened to think this is worth going after.
And then to tie into that, we have they did a cute little play on the words. So you, quote, have to be kidding me, tube. So YouTube. Starting Thursday, all video mentioning voter fraud are coming down and replaced with links to CNN, NBC, ABC, and CBS.
Well, this video's gone.
Yeah, so we were talking about that because John, he's like, oh, crap, they're going to take down our stuff. If that happens, so you guys know, all of our videos are posted on our website, so they can't take that down, hopefully. So, but that's the issue, right? Like, we talk about, if you want to talk about the power that these companies have, is freedom of speech is no longer free in these platforms. Now, my thing is that they're owned by somebody. These aren't free platforms for the community, for like by the government or anything like that. These are businesses.
Yeah.
They do have the right to stipulate whatever the hell they want to do. My point of view is that they hurt themselves that way, because then other platforms come up, like Facebook is doing this, then Parler stuff is stepping up, and they're getting a lot more people coming over to Parler, using Parler, not going on Facebook. So it's like, if you start doing this, you start hurting yourself as a business. And you have YouTube now that has been censoring quite a lot of people for mentioning things that they just...
Good Lord. Well, that's my point we talked about. Like, Facebook is even doing it to where you just mention the word unemployment, like, oh, political view. Like, no. And from a damn government website, unemployment rose. And that's what I'm saying. Like, nope, that's a political view. We're not going to let that ad be posted on our platform. Like, my God. But that's also the thing where I think it's, to your point, they're retarded that they're doing that. They're going to hurt themselves business-wise. But now you're also stepping out of the grounds of the Article 230 that protects them from liability lawsuits from what's posted on their platform, to where you have a lot of people saying that you aren't a provider anymore. You're a publisher. You're acting as a publisher, to where CNN, Fox, ABC, they are responsible for what they put onto their platform, where they can be sued for the stuff that happens. Just look for that kid that had the... Oh, it was a march where they showed the little clip of like the Indian like beating a drum and the kid like in his face, like with that little smirk on his face. And he want to bring a huge lawsuit against those platforms for defamation of character. And he won hundreds of millions of dollars because of that. Where you can't do that for YouTube. You can't do that for Facebook. But now they're stepping outside of that realm, screening these people. They're acting as a publisher, then more of a provider, which now eliminates them from the ability to have lawsuits brought against them for what's posted on their platform. And I was like, thank God that was done.
Yeah, it's that's why, like, I tell people, like, while these platforms are important and everything to get reach and to get in front of people and everything, you still got to have a backup plan. You still have to be able to understand that it's rented space. It's not for you. You know, you don't have any rights to it. You know, you have a free space that they're letting you use and giving you access to people. That at any given time, they can switch the plug. They can flip the switch. I mean, switch the plug, flip the switch, and cancel you and get rid of you and censor you. What I find the worst, though, is how they're pushing every video that they take down, they're pushing to ABC, NBC, CNN. So they're pushing it to all pretty much the left-wing news stations. So it's like, there's an agenda too? Like, you have a political agenda too? So it's like, okay, so if you come up with anything pretty much, because who's talking about corruption, fraud, and all that is the right. So anything that is related to the right, they're going to take it down and they're going to push it to the left. So it's like, you're controlling the narrative big time. And YouTube is the second largest search engine
behind
in
Google,
the
which
world.
owns YouTube. So they are the number one search engine between those.
And this year alone, they've reached over 100 billion views just on the gaming side of YouTube streams, just on one section. So I mean, it's insane how much they're being used. But let's start, being that it's 9:30, let's start kind of wrapping it up. We'll finish off with this real estate article and tie into our prediction. Sounds good?
Sounds good.
So we have homeowners are $1 trillion richer thanks to the pandemic-driven housing boom.
And this is important, too, because it goes into some of the predictions that I have, and by looking at the information of like the coming foreclosure crisis. I'm like, I don't know. So homeowners are $1 trillion richer than in the pandemic-driven housing boom. As prices rise, home equity multiplies. In the past year, homeowners with mortgages represent about 63% of all properties have seen their equity increase by 10.8%, according to CoreLogic. That equates to a collective $1 trillion in gained equity, or an average of $17,000 per homeowner, the largest equity gain in more than 6 years. It has contributed to historically low foreclosure rates, although part of that is also due to mortgage forbearance programs that put in place at the start of the pandemic. Still, it will help those borrowers who are struggling most and may not be able to keep their homes. They can sell into the market and potentially still make a profit. With pent-up demand from the spring now largely expended, mortgage interest rates unlikely to fall further, inventory at record lows, and early signs that the exodus from cities is slowing, home sales will edge back further over 2021, wrote Matthew Poynton, property economist at capital economics. That, alongside the tight credit conditions, suggests the current boom in housing prices will prove short-lived. As it stands now, the share of borrowers in a negative equity position, owning more on their mortgage than their homes are worth, is down more than 18% from a year ago. There are just now 3% of 1.6 million mortgage properties in negative equity positions. So that is that's where my point where they say, like, I don't see a forthcoming foreclosure crisis unless they're in that 3% of the 1.6 million mortgage, whatever it may be, that are underwater and can't sell at the market. So there's a lot of pent up demand. Mortgage rates are low. A lot of people have equity, and they have the ability to sell and still potentially break even, make a profit, or lose a little bit to get out from underneath their house in their current situation.
So how do you see 2021?
Got to make. I wrote down notes.
Ooh.
At 3:00 in the morning when I couldn't sleep. So, on the mortgage, I agree that you're going to have a moderating real estate market. I think interest rates are going to rise some in the mortgage industry. In 2021, I don't think they're going to rise drastically, but I could see everyone saying, oh, they're going to stay low and they're not going to go up. I think they are going to start to go up, just because and a lot of it hinges on, I think, what happens in January with those elections, on which way the government kind of goes, because one side prints a lot and that money needs to be absorbed from somewhere, and somebody needs to provide it to take on that risk. So they're going to start wanting premiums for the additional risk, for the level of debt that's being pumped out to be able to absorb that kind of money. So I think real estate prices are going to moderate. I don't think we're going to continue to see this 10% year over year gains, but I think we'll start to drop back down to where we were previously, to where back to your like 4 or 5% gains year over year.
Okay. And interest rates rising, you feel that that's going to rise regardless of what the Fed was saying, that they're not going to rise their interest rates, but you believe home interest rates will rise?
Yes.
So they're going to do that to stop the increased prices of homes?
No. And I don't think they're going to force it. I think the market's going to force it.
The market's going to force the rise of interest rates?
Yes.
How is that going to happen?
Because of the supply and demand. I think you're going to have, they're going to try to keep mortgage rates low, but I think there's so many people that have done it that I don't think they can rise anymore, or like, I don't think they can go lower. But I think mortgage rates are going to rise a little bit. It's just a prediction that I'm moving towards.
Okay. Well, in my opinion, real estate next year is 100% going to be based on what happens as far as these COVID vaccines, as far as the news, keep politicizing COVID and everything. I don't see why they're going to overturn anything, but I do see that Biden is most likely going to just be president, and that's just what's going to be. So with Biden in place, that being done, I think next year is going to be more of a stagnant year. Like, I don't think we're going to see huge swings in any direction on anything. I think it's going to be kind of a choppy year. It's going to be a lot of headlines, a lot of big news that's going to be forcing people to go and, kind of just be scared and just stay on the sidelines to wait to see what is Biden going to implement. Is he going to raise taxes? Is he going to do this? Is he going to do that? So while that's going to happen, I think a lot of people are kind of going to be on the sideline. Now, my prediction for real estate is next year, if you, as a real estate investor, want to have any level of success, you need to become an adaptive real estate investor. You need to be able to get rid of your emotions, and because you might have to invest in things you normally did not want to invest in. And that, I believe, has been the biggest lesson for us this year, is that there are areas of towns we don't like. There are types of investments we don't like. But because of the change in the market, because of demand, because of the buyers, because of what it is, we've started making exceptions. Yep. Because we analyze the data. we analyze the market. We analyze what makes sense.
I mean, that's one thing I do agree that here in Texas, especially San Antonio, I think inventory is going to continue to be a problem, to where I think this huge jump we've got is because interest rates were lowered. So that means people could afford more very quickly. But before this, you saw an issue with a pricing demand where people weren't able to afford those mortgages anymore. And then you saw appreciation starting to slow down over the last several years, to where you all of a sudden you had this pent up demand, mortgage interest rates dropped. That made a huge jump in pricing, but it didn't really add any value. It just adjusted the prices to where a lot of equities were very quickly created. So I think inventory is still going to be a problem here in Texas for sure, because one of my predictions is you're going to continue to see more businesses moving to tax-free, business-friendly states from these other places.
So you aren't done with all your predictions?
No, I had a bunch.
So keep going.
I'm keeping it real estate. I'm going in a flow. I also. So are we done with are you done with your real estate predictions?
No, I thought you were gonna go, and then I was gonna go. I didn't know we were going in order.
Okay. Well, I'm agreeing with your prediction there. So are you done with your prediction?
No.
Okay. Continue to go.
Okay. So what I was saying is that so as a real estate investor, you gotta be able to adjust. You gotta be able to adapt. Stop being emotional.
So what's your prediction with that though?
So my thing is that what I see is more on the buy and hold side. Like, I believe that rentals are still going to be a big play in 2021. I think they're just a smart play regardless. I think with single family rentals is where the play is, because it gives you more outlets than, let's say, multifamily, right? Multifamily, jobs move, anything happens. The asset is what it's worth. On single family, you can owner finance, you can sell, you can do a million things with a house and to get rid of it if something happens. With multifamily, not so much. And as far as real estate, it's going to be very location based. So you got to pay attention in what city you're investing in. If you're in a city where they have high taxes, where they're not business friendly, you need to understand that real estate is going to take a hit in those cities. People are going to be moving, money's going to be moving out, prices aren't going to be rising as fast, rents are going to be rising as fast. It might take longer to sell, take longer to rent.
Now that going back to my previous spot, like why I think interest rates are going to rise is because you're going to have, because that's not being bought up by the Fed currently. They're buying mortgage-backed securities and stuff like that. But I think there are going to be certain levels of risk that people are going to be compensated for. Because these banks that originated these notes, they're not holding them themselves. They're originating,
they
selling
them
off to somebody else. Yeah. And I think those investors and those people buying it are going to want to start to see premiums for those mortgages over this 2% and stuff like that, that is being created. And or especially like places that are high state, you continue to see exodus of jobs. I can see people saying, I don't want to take a $1.7 million jumbo mortgage in San Jose, California, in this tiny little house. Right. It's like, I don't want to give it 3% on that. I think I'm going to more want 4%. So I think that could drive up.
And even then, I think lenders are going to be a lot more stringent as far as investment properties go. So if you're an investor and maybe you don't have the income or whatever to justify the loan, I think it's going to be tougher for you to get a loan moving forward, because they are getting scared. You understand that they are still afraid of all these things that what was it, 0.5% fee that they're adding for refinances and all this. And last time in 2008, what was the biggest issue? Were investment properties. Because when shit hit the fan, people liquidated what was actually worth something, and houses were the only assets they had that were worth something. So investment property is something that somebody's very quickly willing to get rid of if they need capital and they need to take care of something, because they know the value is always going to be there. It's not like a stock that's going to go to zero. So we have Lorenzo asking, what about Section 8? My only thing with Section 8 is that it's government funded. And anything government funded to me is like a toss up. They can come up with these things, how, the government is closing and run out of money and stuff like that. So you can see maybe that becoming more stringent for them to qualify people in Section 8. Maybe, I don't know. To me, something that's government based is something that I personally like to stay away from. But again, we analyze the data. So if the data was to show something else, we would maybe look at it, but not something that right now I'm even slightly
I just never had
curious.
the issue or dealt with Section 8. And about new construction, I think new construction is still going to probably be one of the hottest sectors because there's still a massive, in Texas initially.
It's location based.
Yeah, it's like there's a massive shortage of housing. And I think that is something the problem I think you're going to have with new construction is to be able to find profit and be able to sell these houses because land is also extremely expensive. Lumber, material, labor, all that stuff to where like you almost can't afford to build a $200,000 house because you just can't get you can't get it cheap enough.
All right.
So it makes it very difficult to.
And then
build
another
that
thing
stuff.
that we're seeing is developing more and more is build to rent.
Mm-hmm.
So we're starting to see that because you're not getting a massive profit if you build to sell, right? But you are getting somewhat of a decent profit if you do build to rent, where you at least get maybe a little bit of cash flow, but you have a brand new house you just built.
Yeah.
And hopefully an infill lot in a neighborhood that there isn't much space for them to build. So now
I think
prices keep going up. So now, right now you're not getting the profit, but maybe in a year, prices went up enough where now you got the profit.
Well, that's right. I think is like in that sub-median home prices, I think those are going to continue to increase at a very rapid rate.
Mm-hmm.
I think that part of the industry, you're going to see. So if you can buy a house, build it, hold on to it, rent it, hold it for 3 years. If you were able to build it for anything under $200,000 and it's only worth $200,000, I think that's going to go up at a very rapid rate here in the next.
You got to
year.
pay attention. Again, you got to pay attention to the market. You got to pay attention to the market data to make sure that you're staying around the medium price point of your market, to make sure that you're not buying a house or building a house that's substantially overpriced from your market.
So my other prediction is that if the elections aren't overturned, Trump announces almost immediately that he's running in 2024 for president.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's almost a guarantee.
So that's I think he will. He's not going to go away. He's not going to take that loss. He feels like the elections were stolen from him. He's got a very vibrant base underneath him that agrees with that his statement and follows him religiously. To where it's like somebody like that gets punched in the mouth, they're not going to at all costs. He will go back and try to win again in 2024.
And I truly do feel that he feels that he was robbed. That he is trying to. And regardless of what your political views, I do feel like he came in believing that what he was doing was right for America.
Yep.
And he feels strongly that what the other side is doing isn't right for America and that the election was stolen. And if that's the case, somebody like Trump, with the ego that he has, he can't take that line down.
Nope.
So, yeah, I agree.
You kind of mentioned to it, but I agree that relatively flat stock market. Maybe it ekes out a little bit of a gain, but I can see it being volatile, but I don't see a lot more value being added. But 3 months ago, it's like, dude, this market, you can't go any higher. And then it went another 10%. I think it gained 10% just in November alone.
It's going to depend to depend on how much the government invests in the stock market, because the government, the Federal Reserve, everybody, they've pretty much become stock investors now. They've been propping up the stock market and everything by pumping all this money in. So if they keep doing bigger stimulus and they keep doing this, the stock market will go up. But what you got to look at, again, is not just the nominal number of the stock market. You got to see the country as a whole. If California, with the massive GDP they have, keep taking the hit that they're taking, and New York with another massive GDP keep taking the hit that they're taking, it's going to keep affecting the economy, and it's going to affect unemployment, and it's going to affect a lot of things. So coming next year, you need to really pay attention to where the jobs moving from and to. That's where you want to invest, is where they're going to, right? And then you also want to pay attention to like just not being emotional. And I think going back to real estate, like as a wholesaler, you need to become an expert in real estate. That means that you need to understand your market. You need to understand the strategies. You need to understand your buyer pool, because that's the only thing that's going to keep you as a wholesaler in business, because that's where we're seeing right now so many wholesalers are struggling, is because they're like one-trick ponies. They have the one strategy that's been working for them, and that's the only thing they stick to. They don't pivot, they don't adjust, because they're scared of change.
Somebody told us, like, the people that survive in hard times is the mad scientist for a deal.
Yeah.
The one that structures it however the deal actually makes it. It's not saying like, hey, you buy it cash at this price, and that's the only option you have.
Yeah.
So you don't have subject to, you don't have short sale, you don't have anything creative. It's just like, hey, here's this house at this price, blasted out to a list of 10,000 people that I've seen on Facebook, and we're trying to find more deals. People are like, oh, I'm updating my buyers list trying to get new buyers. It's because you had the wrong buyers to begin with. Like, it shouldn't be.
Or you have those.
You have a one-time buyer.
Those dumbass investors that will blast a lead and put like everybody in the email, and you see all the emails on the email subject line, and it's like 400 names, and it's like, dude, like, it's insane. You don't even know what their buyer requisites are. You don't know anything. So you're hurting yourself as a wholesaler, because now you're just blasting these deals out, and you're probably going to have a bunch of other wholesalers reaching out to you saying, yeah, I'm interested. And they just want to wholesale, wasting your time, seller's time, and you got to be a mad scientist. What these past deals that you and I have been looking at, how long have we spent talking about them and not with one strategy? We took out one strategy. What if we do this, this, and this? Okay, no. Okay, now this strategy. Okay, what if we combine this strategy with this strategy? What if we do this other strategy? Like, we're really sitting there and formulating and trying to figure out, like, where's the market going? Where's the data? Okay, let's analyze this neighborhood. Let's analyze the growth, because that is how you're going to make a deal work. Because right now, a lot of the deals that you may be buying, you buy them as they are, and you're like, okay, yeah, not really a home run. But when you put all the data together, it's like, yeah, but over the course of 6 months, a year, it becomes a hell of a deal.
Yeah, I agree.
You understand? So you have to be able to pivot. You have to be able to analyze. And that's why when people say, oh, I want to be, I have a full-time job, I want to start wholesaling and doing this, like, you can't be a part-time investor. Not
today's market, for sure. I mean, you could get away being a part-time investor in 2012 because of the fact that the plethora of actual deals,
and maybe there wasn't that much competition.
There was a very quick switch.
You didn't have as many buyers.
You didn't have as many buyers, but they weren't hard to find. If you went to a RIA or you found somebody, it's like you could probably between 12 and I'd say maybe 15. There was a short window that you could kind of part-time, but after that, it's like, no, everything's being competitive. You need to be knowledgeable, and you need to know what you're doing. I got two more predictions. I think we're going to start seeing more legislation for some form of universal base income start coming down
next year.
Yes, you're going to start seeing. I don't think you're going to see stuff passed because of the way the government works. I think that's going to start to becoming a more reoccurring topic, because like I followed like Ray Dalio, and he says when you have the monetary theories over the past, it's like they have to get money down to your lower tier people to help stimulate the economy up to your bigger spenders to get things going. So I think you will start to see, especially I think it'll be even harder pushed if the Democrats win in January. You're going to start seeing that pushed more and more.
Yeah, and I mean, the last prediction for me is that I believe that we are going to see real estate being attacked a lot more, because as home prices go up, as rents go up, as if they don't open up the economy and people keep hurting, they're going to start attacking real estate. They're going to start attacking landlords. They're going to start attacking investors, where they're going to start saying, okay, hey,
there's the bright spot in the economy. It's the one place that like technology is booming.
They're going to try to booming. I think they're going to try to manipulate real estate prices and everything by hurting the people that invest in the real estate. So maybe 1031 exchanges, we're going to start seeing talks about that. We've already started hearing some stuff on that. We're going to start seeing, them trying to control landlords, trying to control rents, trying to control how you rent, who you rent. They're going to try to start
They're going to try to slow down price increases, just like they try to do with healthcare, but that obviously didn't work.
Correct.
And it's going to create more problems, because you already see those kind of problems and controls in the West Coast. My last one is, I'm curious what your thoughts are when the mask mandate is going to end in Texas.
In Texas?
In Texas. I'm thinking April.
No, I don't know. I don't think so. I think, honestly, it depends so much on, like, it depends on the media. It depends how many people actually jump on the vaccine, right? One, and regardless of the vaccine works or not, because I think it's all media controlled. So I think it's going to depend on what the media decides to do with all this. And if the media, because they finally have a Democrat president, they start killing the news of COVID and start bringing something else in the forefront.
That's what I'm taking into effect.
Then it could be about the first quarter, at the end of the first quarter of next year.
So
but
that's why I'm kind of taking that into effect in the fact that Texas has been shown to like kind of buck the trends on certain things of just being like, you know what, we're done, and moving out. So I think that is like, as those vaccines start rolling out, I see the narrative switching in the federal government so that the president can take the credit for how quickly we ended the pandemic once we got into office. And you'll start to see those things lift.
The thing is that Biden already has said how he wants to mandate masks for the full 100 days, his first 100 days.
First 100 days, and 100 days would be April.
So that's where you come with that.
No, I didn't think into that as well because I don't believe that. But I look at the media, and I mean, that is a factor in it.
All right.
As well, but it's more Texas being one of the first ones to be like, okay, we're done with these mask things. You already see it around here. Like you said, you walked around and nobody like, yes, wear a mask, but you walk in, nobody says anything if you don't have a mask on. Like you see it at the gyms. Like I go to the gym all the time and I see people walk around. Mine falls down. I don't put it back on. I see
you're so
people
irresponsible.
walking around not even having one on. I mean, you see it all over the place. People are already getting tired of it, being like, I see your stats, I see what you're trying to do, and I don't believe it. Right. So that's where I'm kind of coming to, like, that means like vaccines are starting to roll out December. Like it's 4 months for vaccines to kind of come out, and with the executive order of Trump saying America first, you can't distribute these things all over the world, they come to America first. Whether that continues into Joe Biden's presidency, I have no idea. I doubt we'll even hear anything about it. Trump's going to pass it, but they're going to take credit for it once they go into it, be like, oh, yeah, we can really use that. Thank you. And that's where I'm thinking by the April, we'll be kind of done with the masks into mid-summertime. This is really going to start moving on.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think the summertime we can see, depending again on the media, if they stay true to this being a real crisis, then I don't see masks going away until like way past the summer.
That's sort of my prediction is I think it's going to switch. So what do you think the media is going to do? Are they going to push it and continue it, or do you think they're going to let it go?
Well, my thing is like, if this is really a crisis, then it's not up to the media. It's facts, and you shouldn't get rid of masks. But if it is mostly bullshit, as far as like how, crazy and dangerous it is, then they will change the narrative.
So what is your it's a prediction. So like, what are you predicting? When do you think the mask mandates will
My gut
be over?
says that it'll be like the summer. There's something going to happen in the summer.
So what month? I'm saying April.
Oh, fuck. I don't know. I mean, the summer here starts in April. So, I mean, I guess.
Okay, going by like the seasons, like winter
probably
is
like your May, June area time frame when people want to start.
Which one?
Oh, Jesus. June.
I
don't know. When do people take vacations? Like
July.
Okay, let's go with June, a month or before that. But because I think when people start, that's one thing I think people are eager for, is that as soon as they can, like you're just gonna see people taking vacations.
Like, just like the real estate
right.
boom is, like as soon as people can start getting out, I think people are like, oh my God, finally I can start moving about the damn world or country again.
You're gonna see vacations all over the place. Which
would be fantastic for the economy if that did happen, for airlines, for hospitality industries, for hotels.
I wouldn't be traveling the first year. I'm like, all right, you guys just go out. Let's see what happens.
This is gonna be flooded with people.
Oh hell yeah! Could you imagine any spot any airport? Oh hell no. That's my quarantining.
So Kyle Hett is a good friend of mine from back in high school. He says masks for life in Washington State.
There you go.
Ouch.
Well, I believe that. I mean, Washington State. Jesus, what is it? Antifa country over there?
I don't know. That's where Seattle. They had they had their own country there, the autonomous zone, for several weeks, and there's like, we don't want guns, we don't want protest. And the first thing they did is they took up like protection. They started setting up barriers. We don't want. It's like,
well, now I was reading that even the governor there and everything, they're like, all right, we had
that was in Portland,
Oregon.
Yeah, because they have the red house, red door house or something like that, and people are taking up trying to say they're an autonomous zone, and that mayor's like, nope.
Valeria is saying that I agree with John. I think Biden is going to cure COVID. So there you go. But that's it for us, guys. Again, this is the last episode for 2020.
Merry Christmas.
So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed all the stuff that we've been putting out this year. Next year is going to be insane. We're already working on so much content, so much stuff that we're going to be putting out. This year's been a lot of experimental things, as you witnessed. And but we're getting the hang of it. We're getting the hang of all this stuff, and we're going to be putting out a lot more training on how to go from like 0 to, to 50 at least. On everything, on flipping, on wholesaling, on rentals. We're going to be talking on lending money and borrowing money. That's a huge aspect. So we're going to be talking about all that in the coming year, in 2021. So make sure you hit that bell to be notified when we drop a video, in case we get taken down because we're just reporting the news.
The video is on our website.
Yeah, go to our website. All the links are below. Go to our website. You sign up to our newsletter, and you're always going to get our content. So far, as long as they don't shut down the internet, you will hear from us. And as you've seen and you continue to see, we are always paying attention to the market, analyzing, trying not to be emotional about anything, trying to just look at things from a calm point of view. So if you want to know how to take care of 2021, watching this channel is how you're going to do it.
It's the number one way. It's the only way. So like the video, subscribe, share the video so everybody knows this is the best place to get all the real news and real facts about the world.
Very well said. So to everybody out there, have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Woo!
Happy New Year.